Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hope Ninja Parents. Well, if you're anywhere in the world, you've probably experienced lockdown with kids. And at the time of this recording, if you're in Sydney or Melbourne, you've gone through a particularly long lockdown. Today is all about coming out of lockdown, transitioning kids out of lockdown. All right, so welcome to episode 2. We are talking about how can we help our kids come out of lockdown. Remember, this is Hope Ninja Parents. We are on a mission to get out there and get this hope muscle really flexing. I'm Cynthia Painter, mindset coach. I'm here with Dr. Louise.
Hi, I'm Dr. Louise Metcalf. I'm a psychologist of almost 30 years. I'm a mum and I'm the founder of Gheorg, the little robot who helps kids with anxiety and to build resilience.
Absolutely. Gheorg, the app, robot-friendly, kid-friendly app. You can find out more details about that below if you want to check him out. But we're all about here empowering kids to be able to use hope as a way of actually being able to ride the waves of life, helping us to be more resilient, helping us be more confident, and deal with life as it comes our way. Well, life that comes our way, geez, right now it's around October 2021. At the beginning of the year, I did not think I was going to spend about 15 weeks in lockdown. I had a life planned. My kids had a life planned. Boy, okay. And for us here in Sydney, I don't want us to say that we're the only ones in the world. Not saying that. It's just our recent experience. We've just had a long lockdown. We've got Melbourne, that's probably the most lockdown. I think recently had the most number of days in lockdown of any city in the world, if I read that news correctly. And lots of countries have had different forms of lockdown and very long ones. So we wanted to dedicate this particular episode quite timely to helping transition kids out of lockdown. That's what's happening here in Sydney, will be happening in Melbourne, has happened a lot already in other countries. So if I would love to know your experiences. And of course, we're doing this by building the muscle of hope, the hope circuitry, which if you want to learn more about hope, go back and check out episode 1. We talk all about what that is. So, Louise, I would love to know what is the general impact, I want to say, of something like lockdown, but should we just call it out as its own thing? I don't know if there's anything else quite like it other than maybe a medical intervention where you end up in hospital for long times. So what is the impact on kids, teens, adults in general of this phenomenon that we're now second language, right, of lockdown, and particularly long-term lockdown?
Yeah, seriously. If someone had told me a few years ago, by the way, you're going to have to live through over 100 days of lockdown in your home.
And homeschooling.
Homeschooling, yeah. I would have thought they were crazy. But no, it's a thing. It happened. It's happened around the world. And what a challenge it has been. So the biggest impact that we've noticed in terms of mental health, right, is a rise in loneliness, stress, and a feeling of being disconnected from our social support. So people who would generally kind of buoy us through life, friends and family, that kind of thing. So that's been massive, obviously. That's not surprising as an effect of lockdown, but it was probably surprising as to the extent that it created distress for a lot of people anyway. So I don't think the psychologists were surprised, but I think a lot of the media and politicians were very surprised. It's definitely a very modern phenomenon, right? Like if this was the Spanish flu in the early 1900s, as it did happen in Australia, we didn't see those kinds of effects. And the big difference was that people were very mindful back then, very present, right? You might listen to the radio, for an hour a day. You might get the newspaper if you were wealthy, if you had money, but pretty much everybody lived in the moment. Whereas these days, we almost never live in the moment. We're so not present, so not mindful. And so mental health impacts are actually, you know, more than they would have been.
Yeah, exactly. And I think back then as well, we weren't on top of each other.
No.
We would be living on large parcels of land. You wouldn't see each other as much. So, it was a very, very different time. Whereas we're literally with phones in each other's pockets, in each other's bedrooms, in each other's homes.
Hyper-connected. Yeah.
Yeah, hyper-connected. Perfect word for it. So I think I can only speak of the Sydney experience, and I'd love to hear other people's, whether you've had this experience or not as well. Australia, let's just contextualize for those of us who are outside of Australia. Australia sort of had it good in a way because we're this massive island. It wasn't like we were Spain or France or whatever, where we've got borders of other countries, although the internal borders of Australia have been intriguing. We can't go to Queensland. We haven't seen relatives in other states for a long time, right? As borders go up and down, internal borders.
Yeah.
But what that meant was, as an overall, we weren't massively impacted. We did have a lockdown. And for Sydney-siders, we've had two major ones. If you've been in a smaller part of Sydney, then maybe three. When it first happened, and we did go into this, the whole world stopped. It felt very different to the second one. So I want to really understand from your perspective the impact on people, but particularly on kids, because this is my experience. The first one was, we don't have to do running around to kids' sport. And we all walked and walked around, and we made bread and pasta from scratch. And some of us decided that we were going to become Buddhas, and others decided we ate too much and we became Buddha-ish. But, it was this embracing almost of slowing down. Now, it wasn't all rosy. Lots of us disconnected, not able to see family. There was definitely that impact, and definitely that impact for our kids. My youngest had a birthday right at the very beginning of the first lockdown, and we did a Zoom party. We were one of the first to do Zoom parties. So there's definitely impact. The second lockdown, for us, another big one. These are multi-month lockdowns, and harsh ones at that. It felt different. And it felt different. I don't know if it was because Sydney was sort of on its own for a lot of it, even though Melbourne popped in and out to say hi as lockdown. But Sydney, and it was like a lot heavier. I felt a lot more overwhelmed. I felt a lot more even, and I say this word quite respectfully, depressed, as in homeschooling kids and being on my own as well. And so even me as a mindset coach have had struggles through this, right? And I've seen my kids struggle. There's not as much, what a beautiful opportunity to reset our lives happening. So maybe that's just me, but what's your take on what have these lockdowns been like and the impact? Because we're talking about hope, right? The hope is the ability to ride the waves, and to get that up, to get back to the up. What are your thoughts?
Well, the first one, it did feel like there were benefits to it, right? Like, we were sewing. Every day if I want, right? It just felt awesome. And it was a bit like a holiday, I think, at first. It was a bit like, great, I can cheat the system a bit here, as in sleep in, or, not eat healthy, or, I can be a bit sort of,
live in tracksuit pants.
This is like holidays. I can have a little bit of a pseudo holiday. And it sort of was like businesses were still reeling in how they set up, right? So if you're working from home, there were days where basically systems didn't work or they just weren't ready yet. So you were twiddling your thumbs, you're like, oh, might do some reading, catch up on some PD.
Correct. And then business was impacted. My business was impacted. Lots of businesses were impacted. So certainly it was downs, but there was a general feeling of we're taking our life back to being slow and being more present and
Feels good. Yeah, definitely. And if you're an introvert, the lockdowns have actually generally been good. You're
No one believes me that I'm an introvert. I'm an ambivert. I'm equal introvert and extrovert. Yeah.
So basically, right, like there are benefits to lockdown. And yeah, the secret one is the introverts going, oh, please, can we just stay in lockdown forever, right? I don't blame them. But even for introverts, right, it became quite challenging the longer it went on. So it's been more and more challenging the longer it goes on. It's not just the hair, which bloody won't, get out of your eyes. It's that's so true, right? It's all the things that just don't work when you can't actually get out there to do them. And so you have to put things on hold. And that includes things like, a friend's wedding, which is a really big deal, right? When people really just want to get married, they want to get on with their lives, they want to have kids, right? It's like, well, you have to wait. That is really stressful. And we miss people. We genuinely miss people. I mean, Zooms are awesome. And a Zoom birthday party at the beginning must have been like super popular, right? It
was great. I had it managed, scheduled to the minute. I had that party over and done within 30 minutes. Everyone was happy.
Awesome. It's so awesome. But by now, a Zoom birthday party is like, oh, why can't we just have a birthday party? Have a party and see people and spill drinks on people, and like it play on, the harder it got in a very big way, because it wasn't novel anymore. It was Groundhog Day, and it was just not as fun. As fun.
Yeah. So what about the impact, let's talk the second time round, on kids? Talking about particularly school-age kids. What's the impact of this? Because they're coming into it again. There's particularly younger kids in the kindies, year 1 and 2. They've spent probably equal times in school as out of school, in times when they're learning those things like socialization and reading and writing. But even like my kids are, year 5 and year 9. So what is the impact if we're talking about their ability to ride the wave? So we talk about hope being the circuit that allows us to ride the wave. What impact does something like this have on those kids?
Honestly, it depends on how the parents navigate it. Right now, right, there's a lot of interesting things that are happening for kids that we won't know the outcomes for a long time. We'll see what the pandemic really did to kid learning, for example. Particularly for younger kids, we'll probably see that in about 5 to 6 years. So it's a long stretch to start seeing some of the very tangible outcomes for kids. But how they navigate what they call re-entry anxiety at the moment, I really hate that phrase, but how they navigate that really depends on parents. So let's face it, this last lockdown, the second lockdown, very, very tiring. Work was all organized. There were no, relax, do your PD on today because we haven't got the IT working. No, that's gone. So we're all, working hard and, trying to kind of get everything done that we would normally get done.
Yeah.
Some people, they're more productive, but some people, they feel guilty. Even though they're more productive, they can't produce even more. So it becomes a bit sort of complicated because we don't have the social cues.
Yeah.
But when it all finishes, we're all going to have some version of re-entry anxiety. Because it's weird. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
Kids as well.
Yeah, and I sort of really want to get into this. That really sounds bad. Re-entry anxiety. I've got so many pictures in my brain. It's terrible.
You thought of that.
Back to life anxiety. I don't know. There's got to be a better term.
Yeah,
but yeah, if I think about for kids as well as adults, what's happened is there was a newness to it before, that whole idea of slowing it down with a lot of, obviously, kids' activities went out the window. We had all this time, and bike sales went through the roof, right? Not just Zoom sales, bike sales. People were buying bikes left, right, and center, right? In the first one now, we've been pushed to do it. But that anxiety to actually return, let's have a look at what that means for kids, because there's a few things to consider. One is, it's been a hell of a long time. Like, it's been a good, 15, 16 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Again, kids have been through it before, so therefore, again, they're feeling that same drudgery as us. The homeschooling has really kicked in. I mean, my kids have had full school at home, right? Without necessarily Zoom sessions and things like that, right? Plus, it was only supposed to be 2 weeks, remember?
Yeah.
So there was this thing, and then it kept going longer, and we were like, is it, aren't we, where are we? So there was that uncertainty. Lots of messages on social media. Lots of, even for myself, I would listen to the update from the government every day on numbers of deaths and cases, trying not to let the kids hear, but it's on the news. It's like, it's the conversation, right? Next to the conversation of vaccination. So we've got our 12s and up who are getting vaccinated, our younger kids not vaccinated, right? Then we have anti-vax conversations, and I'm not going to sit on either side, double vaccinated, that's my thing. You can do your thing, right? I'm not getting into that. But that in itself has caused, I think, extra angst on what's right and wrong for kids. They pick up a lot subliminally, don't they, that are being heard. Plus, it's going to be a different experience for the kids going back to school, because even though last time we had the staggered drop-offs and people not coming onto school sites and parents dropping off at the gate, kids in primary school are encouraged to wear masks. So there's all this messages that unconsciously, I come from a conscious unconscious modeling, that is hitting our kids, that I think is adding to this. So I'd love to understand from your thoughts, what is that, all that messaging and reality like? You're going to stick a mask on all day going back to school. What are we dealing with for our kids here?
Yeah, it's actually a big change. Like, you can look at this like, our kids are going back to what it was, but they're not. They're really not. They're going back to a very different kind of environment. They're going back to a school where there is an air filter in the room for most schools and for most classrooms. Even the public schools are coming on board now.
Quickly as they can.
That's right. So that's an interesting conversation. What is that thing over there in the corner? And masks. Masks are weird. For kids who are learning social skills, it means that some of the social skills are just literally missing. The cues, what someone's doing with their mask is just literally missing. And as kids get older, so not younger kids have fairly sort of straightforward presentations of emotions. But as they get older, they tend to generate a thing called sarcasm, very natural brain stage, by the way.
I have one of those.
A
couple of those.
Just a few. So you really need facial expressions in order to determine sarcasm. And sarcasm is used in particularly sort of older kids to rib each other, right? It's a way to kind of communicate, to generate connection. So, however you feel about that, you might think it's pretty negative, but it's just a brain stage, right? They do pass through.
Yeah, very true. I'm with you. I'm on board.
It's a very different universe, right?
Yeah.
It's very different. And it's a challenge to navigate. Yeah.
So that's what I'm wondering. What is actually happening to, I'll call it the mindset development, you might call it brain development, the way we think about things, right? So mindset, my world, is the way we think about things, right? How we interpret things, what we make things mean, the way we filter information and so forth. To go, yes, we've staggered back to school before, right? And so that's not unusual. But to sit in a school where, even in primary school, right? Sit in a school with all the other kids wearing masks and the teacher wearing masks. Like, I think even that subtlety as a visual cue is going to do something to the way we think about things.
Yeah, it is. It's going to reduce the social cues in the classroom. So that's going to be a challenge for kids that maybe struggle with social cues to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be less connections in the brain around social cues and social cues and learning. The other thing it's going to be is a constant reminder that there is something dangerous here.
Yes.
And that is problematic. Now, just to be clear, I'm pro-mask, right? I'm not saying I'm anti-mask here by any means.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. It's a reality, right? Like these are the stuff that we have to kind of keep in mind as parents.
Yeah.
So yeah, that constant reminder that this virus is around in a very literally in your face way.
Yeah.
Is a problem. Yeah.
Because also, even though we know about masks and so forth, and our older kids, our teenagers have worn them, but we haven't been out and about.
Yeah.
So it's not like we've had it, but yes, we came out before, we were wearing masks and so forth on public transport perhaps and things like that. But really before this second round hit for us, we weren't QRing anymore. We weren't wearing masks. We weren't sanitizing our hands. So all different. And of course, what's different this time around as well is that we still have hundreds of cases every day.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. So that language and so forth is still there. We're going to be getting, every time that bloody ruddy nose comes, which is as soon as they get back to interacting with each other will happen, we're off to more COVID tests and all this stuff. So I think there's two elements, I think, for me on this. I'm interested in your thoughts. One is, what has the second lockdown done to the way they view the world? Right. And where, we talk about hope as being that circuit that allows us to get back up on the wave, the ability to get more resilient, to problem solve, to be more resourceful, and deal with the tough times. So we've had that, but then we're also going into this situation of very visible reminders and a changed environment. What is the impact on kids' ability to ride the waves?
Yeah, I mean, reflect on our own, right? The pandemic is a big effect of the Anthropocene. So basically, there's enough humans on the planet right now to create massive effects. Climate change, obviously, the one we knew about, and now the one we now know about, which is pandemics. And oh boy, is that a challenge, even for adults, right? It's a challenge for adults to even think about how to have an impact on a massive problem like climate change that's really well documented.
Yeah.
So a million times worse for a kid, right? Because they're just a kid.
Yeah.
So pandemic is the same. It's this big thing. We did it once, we got through that.
Yeah.
Second time around, oh my gosh, it's still here, right? We didn't beat it. And most kids grow up with, let's face it, fairy stories and superhero stories. There's the bad guys, there's good guys, and the bad guys lose, and you close the book, right? That did not happen. Our fairy stories, etc., did not help kids.
Yeah.
The pandemic. We don't have stories like that yet.
Yeah.
But maybe Harry Potter. I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet. But
Harry Potter, I could go with that.
He comes back a few times, doesn't he?
So yes. 7.
So those are the kind of stories, right? That sometimes there are things that you have to tackle. You get a break, and then you have to tackle them again, and it's doable because we bond together, because we band together. As human beings, we can get through super tough stuff if we do it together. And that's the key message that kids really need to get in this. At home with parents is the biggie, because we're the big role modelers, but also at school.
Yeah. And if we think, as we're saying that, we're not trying not to be Sydney centric. We're both just from Sydney. But if you think of Melbourne, they're in their seventh, sixth or seventh, depending on your definition of a lockdown, because they came out for like a day and went back in. But they've been in more lockdown than anyone else. In fact, they're currently sitting on over 2,000 cases a day. They're steaming towards 3,000 cases a day. They'll come out of lockdown, but with higher case rates. Of course, we've got vaccinations, which made this whole thing different as well. So their kids have had, and adults have had to go through more of a Harry Potter version of this, perhaps, right? With the idea of finishing it. So okay, so we've had a look at the impact of it. I think our audience are like, yeah, and now what do we do, right? So let's go through a few things that maybe we start with parents. We talked about that last time. We want to be the role models. We need to start with our own awareness. So what's some things that we can do as parents to help our kids build this hope circuit and for us to role model it? And then let's talk about, secondly, what can we do to be more directive, because it's happening. It's happening like moments from now.
Yeah. So as adults, we need to be careful about the information that we focus on.
Great.
All information can be balanced, right? Like, yes, you can think about the cases, they're currently rising or where they're currently at. And that's challenging information, or as some people say, negative information. I prefer challenging. And then you've got, the fact that people are getting vaccinated. So in our house, we're watching the numbers because everybody did. And then the vaccinations started to rise and we switched. We started watching the vaccinations. And so we got to like 20%. We threw a little micro party with, a few 30% for delegate, right? Because this is human beings working together to solve a big problem. And we got to 20%. You can imagine the pie got a little bit bigger as we got further on.
Yep.
Nearly 90 in New South Wales. Or is it 90 already? I lost track.
Yeah, we're over 90 single jab at the time of this recording. Yes.
Yeah. So, you can sort of celebrate that way, right? This is people working together to solve big problems. And for kids, you can show them how they're working together. So, you could talk about washing your hands. Oh, you're washing your hands. Awesome. You're part of the effort that is, dealing with the great work, that kind of thing. Focusing on the things that we can do, or the things that are happening as a group that show the way, that actually do generate hope against these big problems.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's what we've said. We've said that hope is the missing link here in development of our little and big human beings. And so how do we not suppress? You still need, they might be scared, right? That first day back, that first
re-entry anxiety. I've got re-entry anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. And walking them up to my kids' school is close enough to walk up to school, but taking them off to school and they're seeing masks and their friends are wearing masks and it's hard to wear it all day because you're running around or whatever. They have to, like in our school, the kids will be, when they first get there, they have to go to different parts of the school so they can't integrate with other year groups. So again, a bit awkwardy doing that, and then into the classroom, weirdness. So, we want to be able to help them not suppress that, right? Those are important things and messages from our brain that we're in danger. We need to acknowledge them when those emotions come up and deal with them. And I don't like the word but. It negates what you just said. And it's about then, okay, how do we get them into that up? So I like the idea of awareness of what we are talking about. What are we focusing on? And then, yes, using your language to help them focus on being part of, the effort, the team work going forward, the superhero or fairies grouping to make it all come out. We're on the good side, are you Harry Potter side or you Slytherin? Maybe we shouldn't open that can of worms. But Voldemort, right? But yes, so we'll do that. We'll certainly watch ourselves, our own awareness on what we're talking about. Have our kids, and we'll get them on team, on team side. Oh, great. And linking, I think drawing those dots and making linkages. Yeah. What happens when how do we build hope? How do we build their resilience so they can ride the wave? How do we deal with them being upset to go to school, or having come and coming home upset? They may not come out right away and go, I was really frightened by this. They might act out. We know that's happened a lot, as they get more frustrated and been under lockdown. So dealing with the stuff, because, sometimes kids aren't able to express it, or they worry about us. They think they're the only ones. What are your thoughts on how to deal with that as we transition out?
We really need to start by recognizing the weirdness of it. Like, let's say your kid does fine, right? They still have to deal with the weirdness of restarting an old ritual, right? The old routine.
Nice.
You're right. Most kids are actually going to experience the weirdness of it and not really understand how to communicate that, right? It's not a proper kind of, I'm super worried about something. It's just, this is so weird.
Yeah.
So we really need to start that conversation, before they go back. Just kind of talk about, this is probably going to feel a bit weird. I feel a bit weird. These are things that are making me feel a bit weird. What is it for you? How are we going to navigate that territory together? So it's very important that kids don't feel alone, basically, in that process. Yes, they might have to walk into the school alone, but they don't have to go through the experience alone. And we do that by, just being really open about the weirdness of it. It is going to be super weird.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. I like that. What about those that have those big stressing, maybe anxiety filled moments before they even get out of the house, day one? I mean, you don't want to be dragging a kid to school, mask on, kicking and screaming. So what about when they're getting in that place? Like, obviously we can do all that work beforehand, acknowledge it, the elephant in the room, look at it, give it a different word like weird, and do it with a different tone in our language that's more playful, in our voice. We're in the moment. We already know what it's like when it's like, get your shoes on. Why don't you get your shoes on? Can you get your damn shoes on? We've all been there. Right? If you haven't, please let me know, because I'm coming to your house, right?
It does.
Add in, because it may not come up as, I'm scared to go to school. I'm worried about going to school, like we're whacking a mask on them, right?
Yeah.
They might play out. They might be meltdowns. They might tell us, give us some hope. Dr. Louise, what do we do in that moment? What can we call upon?
Well, firstly, if you know that your child has anxiety, talk to the school if you haven't already. Have a bit of a discussion about what would be okay, how it would be okay for you to handle those moments with the school. Some schools are working out ways where they can actually have the parent, not quite on the school grounds, but in a way where they can actually transition in a very smooth and comfortable manner with the trusted teacher. So there are ways to kind of navigate that territory with the school. So highly encourage that conversation. It's often a really enlightening one, and schools are, often very practiced with this. Okay, but getting to school. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so as parents, right, we kind of know that you are going to have these moments. Sometimes it's because of anxiety, sometimes because kids don't want to go to school. And that's kind of, that's kind of what kids do. But the way to handle it is to basically not kind of like feed the panic. So you just want to, calm down those neurons first. So there are a couple of ways that the body kind of panics, right? The amygdala is the large one, kicking off, going absolutely crazy, usually. And you need to calm that down first. So calm first, or I'd say hug first, talk second.
Hug first, talk second. Nice.
Yeah. And sometimes that makes you late. You know what? That's part of life as a parent. And I really wish workplaces, when we're all going back to work, would embrace the whole difficulties of parenting, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and maybe preempt that if you can. I mean, I'm self-employed, so a little bit different, but I've put space in my morning to go, I'm not doing anything before a certain time because I'm anticipating. I just need to be prepared in case it all goes, to hell in a basket. So
yeah, that's a really good tip. Absolutely. More time. Don't be pressured in your own self, because it's very hard to calm someone when you're not calm. So yeah, I know this is a really challenging piece of information, but hopefully you can find a way to kind of massage time a bit so you get that bit extra in the morning. And don't underestimate the power of breakfast. Is such a great way to kind of connect with your kid in a really fun way to help them feel like their life is a bit more stable than they might have necessarily been thinking about before they came to the breakfast table, right? Oh my God, I'm going to school, it's going to be so scary, mask, virus, etc. Mum's making pancakes, right? Like, it makes a huge difference in brain activity there.
Pancakes sounds like the go-to breakfast day one. I like it.
Or waffle, like something fun, right? Anyway, so, and then, be prepared for the panic. And they panic with you because they love you and they trust you, right? Like, we quite often see the panic as this is the difficult part. But the truth is, it's one of those like moments in parenting you go, oh my God, I wish this didn't happen, but also it's kind of beautiful. And that's what it is. They just generally love and trust you. They're reaching out to you for help because they're melting down. So hug first, then talk.
Yeah.
And talk that you don't expect this to be, perfect or amazing or totally smooth sailing. We'll just do this little bit. Yeah. So we'll get to the school. I'll wait outside the gate, see how you go.
Yeah. Break it down.
Everything's fine. I'll head off in 5 minutes or something, but you can always come back before I leave, so I'm still there. But little bits, show them that they can do the little bits. If getting to school is even a stressful part, then you would go, okay, let's see if we can just come back.
Yes.
Look, you've done that. It's amazing. Let's see if we can just go to the car. And this is actually, in psych terms, this is actually a version of exposure therapy. So it's just showing kids, see, you can do these bits. It's not so bad.
Yeah. And I have to say, I have used that. My youngest had terrible times after the last lockdown, and even we were also separated, so he doesn't deal with change really well, so a whole pile of stuff. But even at the beginning of this year, he's had some days of not going in. And so what I did particularly is like, okay, well, how about we just brush our teeth? Awesome. Let's just brush our teeth. Okay. And then, because they get overwhelmed, right? You get overwhelmed is really not helpful in a time of panic. But hug first, emotion first. Like if they're crying, sit. If you can just sit with them, let that calm down. And I do think if you can have that space, if you can, great. I think also as we sort of wrap up today's episode, I think you've given us some great things to look at. One is our own language. What are we focusing on? What are we saying, right? And what are we saying to them? What are we getting them to focus on? Because what you focus on is what you get, right? If you think everything's going to go bad, your brain wants you to be right. And so it will reinforce that. It's like serotonin. We've all done it, right? Where we've gone, oh, I did that speech or I cooked that thing and it was terrible. And everyone's going, oh my God, but it was amazing. And you're like, no, there was too much of this or didn't do that, right? So, when you get what you focus on. Full stop. So by helping change their focus, really great. And I think having that conversation of hope, what is it that they're looking forward to coming back, having a reality conversation of, might be a bit funny to see everyone, or weird to see everyone in masks. I wonder if everyone will have the same masks. Wonder if anyone will have any funky masks. You can get funky masks that show personality, do that. Why not? Have some fun with it. maybe pack them something really nice for their first day back or their first week. I know that in our school, the canteens will be open for lunchtime. Maybe there's a lunch order in there, some things to look forward to. But yeah, definitely. And giving yourself some space.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself plenty of time in the morning. In fact, as I said, I'm blocking out not just that morning, but the whole week. I'm not starting early that whole week. I'm giving myself time to give them some space.
Yeah, that's great.
There as well. So, and I do really love that because I don't think people would think about it. I do think we sometimes think we're in our own vacuum of reaching out to the school. The school teachers have probably already got an indication of who is most likely to be challenged by return, and all that school planning will be part of that. But reach out, right, and talk to the schools about, well, I'm thinking, what's the options that we have here? And it's going to be different per grade because for our kindies and our year one, it's almost going back to scratch.
Yeah.
Really. And then, we've got HSC kids, and everything in between as well, let alone whatever lockdowns might continue as they have outbreaks and so forth. Yeah. All right. So what a great episode. We've talked about what lockdown is and how it's impacted us and our kids and what the transition may be like. And we've got some really good tangibles from today. Makes me happy, ticks all my boxes. Anything else you wanted to share from today with our listeners?
I'd say be patient. Be patient, everybody, with yourself. It is going to be weird. There's going to be lots of different processes in the brain kicking off. And we just have to be patient with what this looks like. It is going to be a bit weird.
It's going to be a bit weird. So much going on. A bit weird. But weird is good. I like weird.
That's good. I like that.
I like weird.
So good.
Anyone who knows me would know I like weird. So weird is good. Same as boring. So we're all weird. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for today. We've had a great talk, really topical. This is a jam-packed session. So, come back to it, pull the pieces apart. If you have any questions, you want to connect with us, get involved, comment below. You can follow, and subscribe to us as well. We're going to be having more episodes coming out as we are on this mission as Hope Ninja parents to build that hope circuitry, to really build the muscle to help our kids ride the waves of life. And we will be coming back to you soon. If you do want some individual help with your child, particularly school age, do check out Gheorg. The details will be below, which is our kid-friendly robot app who really helps empower our children deal with their big emotions and anxieties. All right, well, we will be checking back within you very shortly. But goodbye to all. Stay safe and keep up the hope. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.